Welcome everyone to this April 2023 full moon forecast. We have a full moon in Libra, and I am Charlotte Alea Dovechild, and I am channeling a message today from Mother Earth and my guides that is in the service to our highest good and our highest evolution. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time, thank you for being here if you are regular to these forecasts. So I draw four cards for us from I don't have the box here today, but it's called Tarot the Spirit by Pamela and Joyce Eakins. And I draw four cards that reveal what is present for us during this full moon window and also what is coming, what is opening for us within these basically next couple weeks. So the first card that I draw is our lesson, what we are here to learn right now. The second card is our shadow, so what is emerging from the unconscious, from the unseen realms for us to pay attention to and integrate. The third card is our gift, which is self-explanatory, right? Everybody loves a gift. And the fourth card is our wild card, and that is whatever other energies are present that Spirit wants us to be aware of. So we are going to dive right in because we have some juicy energies that are present. I'm just realizing they're out of order here. So interestingly, we don't have any major arcana cards. So major arcanas are major archetypal themes. And when we have a major arcana card, we really want to pay attention to it. So we don't have any, but I still feel that this energy is very intense and we're still riding the wave of all of those planetary transits that we've just moved through. I think it was last week that Pluto moved into Aquarius. So, and if you watch the last forecast, you'll see we had three major arcana cards. So there was a lot of shifts, big shifts in energy. And now we're really riding the wave of that. And we're getting deeper into what is this actually bringing up for me personally? And how can I really mine the gold of all the energy shifts that are happening for myself and my work in the world. So we have one earth card, which is our first card. We're going to start talking about this card. And then we have three water cards. So let's talk about our first card, our lesson. So we have four of earth, and this card is called power. And I want you to look at the image of this card. And I actually sort of want to turn it this way for us, because I want to guide us in a little story time hour here. And so if you look at this image, see if it can look to you like the surface, the top lid of a large case, a trunk, a large old trunk. And this trunk has appeared on your doorstep. And it is a mysterious trunk, of mysterious origins. It looks kind of old. It looks maybe very old. But you don't know where it came from. And then on top of the trunk is a letter written to you personally from some kind of law firm, a business letter. And it is saying that this trunk is from a long lost relative, a name maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, a distant aunt or uncle, and that this is your inheritance, that they recently passed away, and you have inherited these items from that relative. So you take the case in, and also within the envelope that had that legal letter is a key. And it's one of those beautiful, what are they called? Skeleton keys made of brass. And you open the trunk with the key. And within the trunk, immediately, it is on the surface are all these objects that are shining and glittering. So maybe some beautiful brass vases and candlesticks and some beautiful tapestries that look to be hand woven with such care. Items that are made with such quality, you hardly see them anymore in stores anymore. And then there's some cases that have jewelry items in them. There's necklaces and rings with incredible precious stones of sapphire and ruby, gold and silver. And there is this one red velvet bag, and you open it, and there is a collection of genuine golden coins, gold coins. And you realize upon looking at all these objects on the surface that your ancestors apparently came from some kind of great wealth that you might have never been aware of. Maybe you grew up with your family really struggling to make ends meet, or maybe that has been your recent experience in life. And just seeing this, you're witnessing your divine inheritance, that there was a part of your past and where you came from where your ancestors lived well, lived in a wealthy way, in relative terms, whatever that might have meant to them. And so you decide to dig even deeper and you take out all those top objects. And then you come at the bottom to rows and stacks of old books. And they are hardcover books with cloth covered, all different colors, orange, blue, all faded and worn with love. And you pick one up and you pick another and you pick another and you start to inspect through them and you realize that these aren't books. These are actually journals. All the text within these books are handwritten. And so you sit down, you get a comfy spot on a chair or sofa, and you begin to read the records that your ancestors left within these books. You begin to read their stories. And something amazing happens as you're reading these stories from your ancestors, these long-lost ancestors that you weren't even aware of until now. You recognize yourself in their stories. And some of these stories are incredibly heroic, overcoming challenges that are immense, incredible accomplishments in their lives, incredible blessings. And there are other stories that you read that are quite disturbing, that shake you, that are troubling. And they are troubling not just because you now know some of the things that occurred for your ancestors, but they are troubling because you recognize that you have experienced some of those exact same kinds of troubling occurrences in your own life. The similarities are astounding. So much so that you want to close those books, put them back at the bottom of the case, cover it all up with the brass and the gold and the jewels, and lock it up again. So this story describes Four of Earth. Four of Earth is basically, four is the most earthy number that we can pull. So Four of Earth is basically Earth of Earth. And it is bringing us squarely into our human experiences, and showing us everything that we carry within our human experience, which reaches back greatly, greatly in time, far beyond our current life. And so this is the energy that we really want to be paying attention to right now, is the fullness of our own human experience and what we are carrying away that we have locked away in the closets, that we have received from our ancestors, that we have built up over time in our own life. You know, what's in your storage shed? That is the energy of Four of Earth. What is in your bank account? Where did all that money come from? That is Four of Earth. It is our storage centers. And recognizing that we have storage centers, we're storing stuff that we are not even aware of because it was handed down to us through generations that we don't have human memory of. So I want to now jump to actually our wild cards. We're going to jump ahead and then go back, which we have Two of Water, and this is called the Sacred Chord. And I wanted to bring up this energy next because of that story, right? Because in that story, we recognize how our own, the themes in our own human life are tied to others. So in this card is asking us to pay attention to the ties and the cords that attach us to the relationships in our life. So look around at your relationships and what is keeping you in those relationships. What is the material, the essence, the emotional quality of those cords and connections? What are some of the invisible cords that are connecting you to people and spirits and energies that don't have a physical form anymore, that may simply live within you? And how then do those invisible cords get replicated in your current relationships with your immediate family members, with your friendships, with your work relationships, with your partner, with your children? As we begin to pay attention to what we have inherited, what we have in the storehouses, we want to make adjustments to certain relationships in our lives. We want to be in those relationships from a place of sovereignty and consciousness so that we can then make choices as to what types of relationships do we want to be in right now? What is actually going to support us right now? So let's go into our next card. We're going to talk more about this because I've already started talking about the next cards, I realize. So hold this on the side. Hold these both on the sides while I talk about the next two cards. So let's talk about our shadow. We have Seven of Water. The Seven of Water card to me is one of the most powerful cards in the whole tarot deck. And it is because it is our human connection to the astral plane. The astral plane. So the astral plane, some examples of this is every time you go to sleep and you dream, you are actually in the astral plane. Anytime you go into deep meditation and you end up journeying or having lucid dreams, or you are guided on a journey with a facilitator, you're going into the astral plane. So it is the imaginal realm, but is also the realm of spirit. And it is the realm of spirit as we perceive it in our human self. I'm going to keep bringing that up because everything that we are working with in this initiation needs to be viewed from our human self, not from our somewhat detached soul self, right? Because it's a very different perspective. So this is our human relationship to the astral plane. And you see this with this eye, right? This all-seeing eye, and it's dropping this light down. But see what it's going through. It's going through these waves of water and these other kind of mirrors. Yeah. So it's going through all of these in order to try to get to us because we're sort of at the bottom here. So it's showing us that there is quite a bit, because of our human experience, that blocks our pure perception of spirit in our human self. So we go, so this is the astral, right? So this is the pure perception from our soul self, right? This is the astral, and this is the filter we go through. So we want to bring awareness to all the rocky waves of water that have come in through our human journey. And when I say our human journey, I mean our human journey, right? When I say your human journey, I mean your human journey plus all of those that came before you. What is blocking your pure perception of spirit, your pure perception of being at oneness with love, with unity consciousness, right? We have built up over the many generations a lot that blocks that. And so this takes us into this very unsteady place. It's like the deep, deep waters of the ocean, where it's like, you don't know what you're gonna pull out from those deep depths, because like within this chest, there are so many layers. There are so many stories. There's so many emotional memories. But to journey into this realm, into the astral, and to shine a light and say, I want to get to here, then we get to then be able to see clearly what is in the way. And once we are able to see it clearly, we can then begin to clear it. We can build different relationships with it. As we become conscious, it is the next step to freedom. When this energy is present and we do not shine that light, when we are not conscious, this is why the Seven of Cups is often associated with unrealistic fantasy and addiction, because we get pulled into those waves that are warning us, don't go deeper, go this way, go that way. Because there are wounds there, and our ancestors are trying to warn us, and our egos are trying to warn us, and they try to throw us off from it. And so we are being asked to be courageous right now, to be brave, to look at the sacred chords that are buried deep within the oceans of our unconscious, so that we can have a clear view of our soul's perception. Okay, let's move on to our fourth card, our gift. 8 of water. We go from 7 of water to 8 of water. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. I like to call this card emotional sovereignty and emotional freedom. It's called still waters. This is the experience that we have when we are courageous and brave enough to go into the rocky waves, when we are able to hold our own, pilot steady through the waves, and we get to still waters. What is required of us is independence and sovereignty. We are asked to make our own choice. This is a gift of consciousness. When we become conscious of what is hidden, we have a choice to choose to honor those past relationships, those cords that connect us, not past relationships, current relationships that are founded on past relationships that came before us. So then we have a choice. Do we want to stay in these relationships? Do we want to change these relationships? Or do we want to leave these relationships and actually break these cords? There are some gifts from our ancestors, divine inheritance, that we want to hold on to. And there are some gifts that we want to disinherit ourselves from. And that is exactly as it is supposed to be. 8 of water is the gift of us living our own life. 8 of water is the gift of living our own life. And you might say, I am living my own life. We're all living our own life, right? How can we not be living our own life? And yes, that is true to a certain degree on the surface for us all. But beneath the surface, and because we are 99% unconscious beings, we aren't living our own life most of the time. Most of my life, I was not living my own life. I was living the life that was programmed into me. And only by becoming conscious of those ways that I was not living my own life through my divine inheritance was I able to make the choice to say, I don't want to live my life this way. And there are certain aspects of that divine inheritance where I was like, yes, I do want to live my life that way. I will accept that gift from my ancestors. So, emotional freedom and choice, going your own way. And sometimes this can feel, at first, a little bit lonely because you are giving up what you know, what is familiar to you, the connections that fill your life with some sort of normalcy. And when we give that up, there is an empty space. And here's the thing between the relationship between these cards is that all the warnings that come through in the rocky waves, as we get closer and closer to this point, we will hear all these fear messages coming through saying, do not proceed or you will be all alone in the world. Do not give us up or you will have nothing. That is our greatest fear. It is playing on our greatest fear as humans, to be abandoned, to be outcast, to be disinherited. And so we will hit that fear when we begin to mine through and when we begin to go this new way, go our own independent way. And it is a fucking lie. It is a fucking lie. Because guess what? There are hordes of us now doing this work, disinheriting ourselves from the trauma and the wounds and the curses and the contracts and the density and the hardship and all of that stuff that came before us. There are so many of us right now disinheriting ourselves from that. And we are weaving new relationships based on love, based on prosperity, based on reciprocity, based on joy, based on gratitude, based on everything that we want to cultivate in our lives. So my personal message to you, ask yourself to be conscious of the tumultuous, rocky emotions that are coming forward, or in the ways that your emotions may be wanting you to distract yourself, right? How do we distract ourselves? Through food, through entertainment, media, through relationships that are comforting, but do not serve us anymore. So notice if you are falling back on old coping patterns. Notice if you are traveling down some fantasy that is completely unrealistic and actually is filling some kind of ego desire, but isn't really you, isn't really coming from your highest self, wouldn't really serve you. That may be a fantasy that you actually inherited, maybe a fantasy that you've been holding since childhood. And maybe that fantasy needs to go. Maybe those coping patterns need to go. And if we are willing to stand in the still waters to see with truth of what is the state of our relationships, how they are not serving us, what needs to end, what cords need to be cut, so that we clear the space for new cords, new relationships to be built. Whew. That was a laugh of release and relief. For those of you who do not know, I actually have a new offering called Freedom from Karmic Contracts. I released it at the new moon a couple weeks ago, and there is a short video that introduces the offering on YouTube. I'll post a link to that below. And it is a ceremonial journey and process and experience to break karmic cords and set yourself free. This is one of my areas of specialty, and we are in the carnelian ray of freedom right now. And so many of these messages that are in my special wheelhouse are coming forward right now for us because of this bright mid-spring energy that is driving us to evolve and to grow. I know some people might consider this early spring, but I come from the Celtic calendar, and so on the Celtic calendar, the first day of spring was beginning of February. So for me, we are mid-spring, and that's really how I feel the energy. Even though I know a lot of you who are watching are like still buried in several feet of snow right now. Still, the energy of spring is so powerfully strong right now, is driving us to grow, is driving us to release our old skins. I'm using the metaphor of the snake with that, not our actual human skin. And is driving us into the next level of our own becoming, the next round of the spiral of our journey. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a beautiful full moon and a beautiful month of April, and I will see you again very soon.